Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for the Customize Your Success Summit. I am excited to have Doug Howell with us. Doug is a former US Army Intelligence Analyst. He's serving veterans. Serving veterans is very close to Doug's heart, and so is technology. So Doug also spent 30 years in Silicon Valley developing and growing technology startups. He's a self-proclaimed Patriot-Preacher-Pilot, and Doug has combined his passion for technology and helping veterans as the current Director of Community Development for VetsinTech. So VetsinTech, they provide technology-focused networking, resources, and programs for our veterans that are interested in education, entrepreneurship, and employment, the 3 E's. And Doug is helping them, our military veterans and their families, transition to a thriving life and career in technology in the civilian world. Now, Doug and I both are members of the Executive Council Network, which is an invite-only network built to elevate members through world-class summits, executive elevation, and angel opportunities. So Doug, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us in this summit.
It's super awesome to be here with you, Ms. Tina. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'd love for you to share with us, what was your definition of success when you were growing up?
Yeah, so to answer that fully, maybe I just give you a bit of a thumbnail background on me and where I came from. So I came from what at the time was called a broken home. So my father and my mom got a divorce when I was about 6 years old, and back in those days, in the early 70s, divorce wasn't cool yet. So I was a bit of an ostracized kid in a town where divorce wasn't cool yet, and being a very, very thin person. Boy, I got bullied a lot. So I had some early, I guess, things that happened to me that kind of skewed what my view of success was. And to me, success was someday I'm never going to be scared. Someday I'm never going to be bullied. So it put in me a very deeply in me, the sense of, you're not good enough, and you're just going to have to work your tail off to get to a place where you're not going to get picked on, and you're going to be safe. And so I would say that was really a catalyst and really fuel that pushed me throughout my whole life into, adolescence, into adulthood, and probably, and I think we're going to talk about kind of what I was doing for the last 30 years, into a career of sales where, you're only as good as what you sold yesterday. And it's, what have you done for me today? And that sort of mentality certainly did not do anything to slow down all those things that I thought about myself when I was a kid.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people, we don't realize how we carry that with us into adulthood. All those things that we utilized to cope when we were younger that maybe just don't serve us as we're moving forward. So for you, as your journey progressed, how did your definition of success evolve?
I would say that it didn't really, I don't know that it evolved. It was more like I had an episodic break, at the end of a 30-year selling career in technology where, for all those years in technology, I'd worked for equity-backed, venture capital-backed and private equity-backed companies. And so there was always a lot of pressure to succeed, to excel, to produce. And I think that, probably sometime in 2022, I got to, well, a couple of things happened. One is our one and only daughter graduated and left to go to college in a faraway land. And so I think, over all those years that I was in technology, I'd look at my family and say, hey, I'm not doing this for me. I'm working hard for you, because I have to keep, that whole like mentality of I got to, my role is I'm only as good as keeping a roof over my family's head and putting food on the table and all that. So when our daughter left, it kind of took some pressure off of it. And one day I just went, I'm really tired of making money for other people. I mean, it paid the bills, and it paid the bills pretty well. But I got to a point where I said, I'm ready to go give back. I have got to do something that's soul enriching to me. And so I started to look around for, what can I go do with my time where I have an impact on a couple of groups that I really care a lot about. One is veterans and military spouses, because I was one once upon a time, not a military spouse, but a vet. And I also really wanted to give back to underrepresented groups. And so I found myself at a nonprofit, or started looking for a nonprofit that had those characteristics, those qualities, that mission, where everybody in that organization, all they did every day was work their tails off to provide that mission to help veterans and military spouses have an easier time transitioning from a career in the military, whether it was a handful of years or 25 or 30 or all those long in the tooth veterans, wherever you were on that spectrum. The mission is to make that transition easier using technology. And the thing that resonated with me was, I'm the poster child. That was me when I transitioned out of the military in 1993 into a career in technology that I almost talked myself out of. I had, like many vets, I think I had imposter syndrome. I was like, I can't do this because my job in the military was this, and selling is this, and I thought I knew what that was. And I was like, well, I can't do that. I can't sell. I'm an Army guy. I can't sell. I don't know anything about technology. And kind of, I think through the gentle nudge of God was like, yeah, no, you're probably going to do this. And all those qualities, none of what I did in my MOS really prepared me for a life in technology, but it was those intangibles that vets have that we don't know that we have, where I understand the commander's intent and I'm going to do whatever it takes to accomplish the mission. I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to slow down. I'm always going to be the very best that I can be. And so I see that in veterans today. I see them, kind of going, well, I don't want to be a coder. I can't do technology. No, let me tell you about my story, and let me encourage you to pursue this because you're going to be excellent at this. And it goes for military spouses as well, because, the veteran and the military spouse, I think we're all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can attest, I'm a veteran. I am currently a military spouse, and I grew up as a military dependent. So I got it in spades. And you're right. There are those intangibles that veterans pick up through our career that we don't think translates, or we don't know how to translate it into a new environment like tech. And I love that you brought up the imposter syndrome, because part of the work that I do with people is to really help them dig deep into who are you, what do you bring to the table, understanding how to manage your mental fitness, right? Don't let the gremlins of I'm not enough, I can't do that, right? How do we get over that and manage that so we can move forward faster and stronger in the area that we want?
And I think what I've kind of talked myself into is, here in the last little bit is, what is the mission? Well, the mission is me now. The mission is me. The mission is, I've got to make myself be the best that I can be so that I can go out and give back to what my mission, the other mission is, which for me today is to grab every veteran, every military spouse that I can lay my hands onto, pull them into a career that was so, that I almost talked myself out of, that could be, I want them to have the same path that I did and go, holy cow, this was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I'm so blessed. And look at what, if I had gone off post and filled out the first application I found and got a $15 an hour job, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you come out and you're like, a veteran walking out the door today making 75, 80, 85K and on a trajectory for that to only, compound pretty fast because technology is growing, especially cybersecurity. And so, I think that is, I think that is the philosophy that I've kind of adopted of, the better care I take care of myself, then the better I can do the mission for the people that I really care about.
Absolutely. That inner leadership makes such a difference, because when you're not leading yourself well, you're not leading others well either.
What you said with much fewer words is just what I said, but that was awesome. Thanks for boiling that down.
No, that was great. Well, and I think that another important thing that you brought up too is you said, oh, I can't do sales. I never did sales in the military. And what I've come to understand, I kind of had a little bit of that too when I first transitioned, but what I've come to understand is that sales is leadership. Every single day when you're leading a team, what are you doing? You're leading them from one place to another. You're selling them on the benefits for them, for what their mission is, for taking them from one place to another. That's exactly what you're doing in a sales career as well.
I agree with that 1,000%. I think that's bang on, spot on.
And we just get this connotation around icky sales, and it doesn't have to be. Like, you're not trying to get somebody to do something they don't want to do. You're helping them to move forward. Like, and what you're doing right now, especially, you're going to sell a veteran on, hey, there are opportunities for you in the tech industry. Let me show you what's available to you, and help them open their mind to what's available and what they're capable of.
And another thing is like, I want to say this. If I had a t-shirt and a message is, if I can do this, anyone can do it, so I mean, that would be that. Maybe they'll put that on my tombstone, right? That would be awesome, because it is certainly true. I've seen in the military, you and I both saw this. We saw people. I mean, I saw so many great leaders. I saw so many people so dedicated to the mission, so many military spouses that were just so dedicated to keeping their family together when their loved one was on multiple deployments.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm saying what you just said, I think, in just more words.
Well, no, and it's great, because some people are going to resonate with how you say it, and they're going to go, yeah, I get that guy. And some people will go, oh, I understand what she's saying, right? So it's great if we're both saying the same thing in a different way. And one thing I'd love for you to touch on is, like, throughout your career, when you were doing sales, when you were transitioning into what you're doing right now, did you ever second guess yourself? And if you did, what was it that got you back on track, pulled you out of that?
Yeah. So, all those years in technology sales, I don't think I allowed myself to second guess myself. I mean, if I think a lot of times, and I can remember back to being a leader in the military, where you're like, am I doing the right thing? And you're like, I can't let that worm get into my head. So I'm second guessing myself, because then I'm going to be a horrible leader. So it's like, listen, here's all the information I have. I'm going to make the best decision I can with what I have to complete the mission and take care of my guys. And then you go with it. And then as I think you get deeper into life, I think that just kind of calcifies a little bit. So you're like, second, there's like, hey, I made a mistake. There's opportunity to learn. I mean, I think that's kind of one thing over here. I think you always have to do that. I think that's how you get better at whatever it is that you've got. But I think if you're like, I'm going to second guess myself, I never allowed myself to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm in the wrong career. Maybe to step back and take a 50% pay cut and go grow tulips, or, not that there's anything wrong with growing tulips, but I was just like, I just can't let this happen. And so I mentioned this episodic break that I had, at the end of my selling career. And I think it was just to the point where I'd never let myself have that. And then finally it just broke through and said, no, you know what? Enough is enough. You've got to go live a life's passion now. You've got to go follow your heart, because you've never allowed yourself to get here, and now's the time. And so I would, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm also a lay preacher. So I would say that God had a mighty hand in that. It was like, listen, I let you have all these years and to do what you thought you had to do. Now you belong to me. Now we're going to go do some stuff that's going to give back to the world and make it a better place. You're going to go help people that you really care a lot about, and you're going to feel really good about it. And I was like, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I can do that.
I'm down with that. I can do that. So that's another piece of how I think I made this transition was that episodic break of and then believing that there is that you have act one, act two, and I think you have to realize that in life you get to the third act, the third and final act, which is where everything you've learned, everything you've accomplished, you're like, okay, now it's time for me to put all of that to work to make the world a better place. Some people figure it out sooner. I'm just not that smart. It took me a really long time to learn it, and it was now. And so that, that's kind of, I think, another reason why I ended up where I am.
Yeah, I love that. And because I think sometimes people don't actually stop to even discern, is there something else for me? They just keep pushing through. And some people, they feel a calling to something else, but they're like, nope, I'm stuck. Like, I'm stuck here. I'm making the money. I can't possibly make a shift right now, but we get to realize that we got the one life. and we get to divide up our life in however many acts that we want. And you clearly did at a time when you felt like, okay, I'm done with the rat race. I'm done with the hustle and grind. I'm really ready to go out and make a contribution in a way that's aligned with me.
There was always this joke that I heard all through my selling career. Heard people that were like, on your deathbed, the last thing you're going to say is, gee, I wish I spent more time in the office. And yet that's all we did. It was like one more deal, one more phone call, one more email. And so I think that, there are people that keel over on their keyboard and they're like, poor guy. Well, I'm not going to let that slow me down. And then, hopefully, everyone that hears this podcast can learn from my mistakes and go, if that guy can do it, anyone can do it. And they go, well, I'm going to go do something that is soul enriching, that gives back to the world, and means that I'm not going to die of a coronary embolism or something like that and die on my keyboard, because that's nobody's got
feel like we haven't lived into our full potential, and that we haven't contributed in a way that, yeah. And I think so. I love this conversation, and I'd love for you to share, like, for people that are at that, maybe they're not at that transition yet, but they're maybe thinking like, I'm really not sure that this is what I'm doing right now is what's in my heart. And I would love to be doing something else, or at least just showing up in a different way so that I can enjoy what I'm doing. So what do you think is the most important thing for people to focus on if they are looking to customize their success in their life the way that you have?
I think, for me, you were talking about, hey, did you hear that voice? And I said, no, I did not hear that voice. And if I'm being honest, I think that you maybe you get to a point where you start to hear that voice a little bit saying, hey, maybe we should do something different. Maybe we should do something different. And for me, I would say it was God like leaning in my ear going, you may want to tap the brakes a little bit, because there's going to be a big curve coming. I was like, nope, not going to do that. And, and a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder. And so I would say that it doesn't happen all at once. I think if you can kind of tune in a little bit to what your head's telling you, and more importantly, what your heart's telling you, maybe you will tap the brakes a little bit sooner than I did. Maybe you will start to go, you know what, maybe there's something, in life that's different than this. And I think it comes in a different way to everyone. Maybe it comes at a different time to everyone, but I think it does come to everyone in kind of in their own unique, customized way. At least, I have to believe that. I can't believe that I'm an anomaly there. So I think if I was going to say, one lesson is listen to your heart, listen to your head sooner than I did. And so you make that turn sooner. Maybe you make it a year or two sooner, 3 or 4 years sooner, and think about that window as that many more people that you can go help. Or if your mission is, gosh, we're wrecking our planet and look at all the horrible things we're doing. Okay, maybe that's 3 or 4 more years that you're out there actually as an activist to make those changes. So whatever it is that's on your heart, if you listen to it sooner, then you're going to you've got that's 3 or 4 more years that you have to make that additional added delta of an impact.
Yeah, a longer runway to make that impact that's really on your heart. And I'll say some of the clients that I'm working with, one of them, like you, at the end of like a really long, not really long, like you're there that old, you're not, but I mean a long career, like I have to give you a little ribbing. You went to OU and I'm Oklahoma State. So, there's a little bit of that too.
Well deserved. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. PP Sunshine.
But so for people that are like 30 years, right? 25, 30 years in a career, and you're like, gosh, there's something else for me. I'm done with the hustle and grind. That's one thing. And then another client that I'm working with, he's like, I'm not looking to leave my job, but I'm just missing my family. My kids are growing up. I'm missing what's going on in front of me. And there's got to be a better way. I don't know how, because I don't have any time right now to change anything, which is a misnomer. Because a lot of the times it's not what you're doing, it's who you're being while you're doing it and how you're doing it. And those things you can shift at any time. It doesn't have to be an episodic break. But for a lot of people, that's the time when the shift comes.
I would agree with that, 100% of that. It's hindsight is 20/20, right? So So I can say that of all the things that we feel or think about in life, regret is probably the very worst of them. And regret for the, I was telling you that our daughter's left for school, and I'm like, and I've got all the different, screensavers and picture frames that show all those pictures, and I look at those and I'm like, gosh, I wish that, when she wanted to go play basketball, I guess, I wish that, I sent her a text the other day and I was like, when you were asking if we could go shoot some hoops, and I said, no, I've got to do stuff in the yard. I regret not doing that for you. And she was like, well, you know what? That's kind of how life just unfolds. So I'm going to put hit the period at the end of this sentence, and then I'm going to allow you to reframe what I just said in a much more elegant way. But I think regret is one of those things that is avoidable, but you don't realize it until it's too late.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize it until it's too late, but we can, like you were saying, listening to what's going on in your heart, that little voice that you hear that you're like, I don't have time for you, go away. It's never going to go away. It's actually going to get louder, and it's going to be throwing things in your face, and you're going to go, yeah, okay, fine. I get it. So I thank you so much for just sharing your experience, because I think a lot of people have an experience just like you do. And when they can see that there is another way, I don't have to just hustle and grind and miss the things that are important to me and realize later, oh gosh, I wish I would have. We're always going to have that no matter what, but we get to choose to show up in a different way if we want to. So, and I love what you're doing with VetsinTech to help folks that are transitioning to do that.
If I'd only had you as a life coach like 25 years ago, I would have cured cancer, I would have cured AIDS and world hunger. All three of those things would have been, I would have, knocked out if only I listened to you 25 years ago.
All right, we're going in the time warp machine. We're going to rewind.
I like it. Let's do it.
Doug, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. I know our audience does too.
My pleasure. Thank you for all that you do for your clients and for the world.
Thanks. We'll see everybody later.